Okay, great. Let's begin then, please. I was fixing some details before starting today. Today we only have one more lesson. This is the last lesson to finish today, right, for the fourth class. And well, after this, again, I'm going to show you something extra. That this time we're going to see this, this unit as well, not only this unit in this course, lesson related to, let's say, the speaking class that we got, or speaking course. So right in the previous one, we got to see lessons related to writing. Now we're going to see some strategies, recommendations, pieces of advice related to speaking. Okay, later on, perhaps I'm going to be reading, when I finish those presentations, I'm going to be reading some articles for you so that you get to see some words, you get to see some vocabulary. All right, that's going to be important again, but we're going to see how it goes. Again, my main job over here is to show you these presentations. Actually, it will be working for you. This is the first time again that I'm just recording the classes. They are short because I just want you to show you that. And here we would have to be practicing. Okay, remember, but please, as you're not here with me, you should be practicing on your own. Pearson is not going to do the job, right, by itself. You really need to practice your speaking skills, your writing skills, and that's something that you're going to do only as you have someone there with you. All right, so let's start then with the last lesson for this unit, that is future time clauses. Let's begin. Let me verify that the microphone is working good. Okay, it seems that it is okay. Then we may begin. It says, future time clauses are dependent clauses that must be joined to independent or main clauses. It is customary to use the future in the independent clause and the present tense in the dependent time clause. Do not use the future in the time clause. Okay, now this is important because it's very common to see, right, let me better, more comfortable. It's common to see two ideas in the future, right? I will do this when I will do that. And that's incorrect, all right? Remember that when we use future time clauses, one of them is going to be in the future, the other one is going to be in the present, but both of them are referred to a future situation. Even though one idea is in the present, again, it shows just a way of communicating something for the future. It is not real present. Okay, and here we have the examples and what I was saying. When the movie ends, comma, I will go to bed, right? It is incorrect to say when the movie will end, comma, I will go to bed. Some people can say that thinking that they are stating something for the future, but no, this is for the future. When the movie ends in the future, I will go to bed. But that idea is already implied over there. We don't have, because if you do, that's going to be incorrect, right? We don't have to use future in the time clause. It has to be present, all right? Then again, you can see there the incorrect way of using that future, all right? Tense in the time clause. Then I'll feel more relaxed after I finish my project. Okay, so we don't say after I will finish my project. No, it's just something that will happen after something happens. And again, that something happens, even though it's in present, it refers to a future situation. Okay, so I'm being repetitive with that because it has to be clear. All right, so common future time clauses: when, before, after, as soon as, until. We can use these structures, all right, these words, to introduce our time clause. So I will travel to the US when, right, I take, or when I get to pass the TOEFL. I will do this before you finish. I will do that after something starts. She will travel as soon as she gets paid. I will practice, right, until the here we need a clause, so until you tell me to stop. Okay, so all these words are introducing the time clause that of course will be in this case in present. All right, so the first part future and the time clause present. But remember that it can also be inverted. And here we can see the structure and that inversion I'm talking about. We use the present tense to talk about future times. All right. The future tense is used to, in the main clause. The present simple tense is used in the time clause. All right. This is what we said already. We are just reinforcing that. So future tense, right? The main clause, when, after, before, etc. So it can be in this order. And you have, I will travel to Europe, the future tense, right? When, all right, or after or before I finish my career. And that's actually the future time clause. All right, but that's in present, in the present tense. Okay, so future tense is the main clause and the present tense is the time clause. That's really, really important to remember. So we have this, right? Tom will turn off the lights when he leaves the office. We don't say when he will leave the office, right? That's incorrect. They will do the shopping before we arrive. Again, present, right? We don't say before we will arrive. Then she will go running after it stops raining, not after it will stop raining. The nurse will wait until the ambulance arrives, right? Not until the ambulance will arrive. And the operation will begin as soon as the patient is ready, not as soon as the patient will be ready. Okay, so I'm repeating that just to make sure that we understand that we don't use future in the time clause. Okay, it has to be what? It has to be present, all right? Simple present. Then, of course, besides using when, after, before, as soon as, right, until, we have other future time expressions. These are some of them. Once, immediately, the moment, the minute, the day, by the time. All right, those are other ways to introduce our time clause. And here are some examples. Tony will call the restaurant the moment he gets home. Okay, so it's also time, right? It's a time expression, it's a time clause. We know when Tony will call the restaurant. Okay, we know that idea and then it is correct. I'll contact you once I receive an estimate. So I will do that action once it's like it's putting more intensity, all right, and let's say specificity to what we want to communicate. You can say, I'll contact you when I receive the estimate. It's great. But if you say once, it feels more immediate. You will be notified the minute, right? The minute your order arrives. Again, the minute feels, let's say, even more urgent, right? When you say once, the minute is very urgent in comparison to when, for example. Then it will be dark by the time we arrive home. Same idea when we arrive home. So these are ways in which we are using these alternatives, all right? And again, they can be the moment, once, the minute, by the time. All right, those are some examples that we have to take into account. This is something I mentioned before, but we're going to reinforce here the inversion. Clauses can always be inverted, but we must use a comma if the time clause is at the beginning, right? So future tense or main clause plus when, after, before, plus present tense. For example, we are going to the party as soon as, right? And here mainly not only go, right? It can be we're going to party, sorry, not to the party. Party here is as a verb, right? Is working as a verb. We're going to party as soon as you get here. Okay, so future as soon as and present tense. But in inversion, we can start right, with that future clause when after before, right, present tense, comma, and that's the rule, remember? If that word is at the beginning, we have to use a comma before the next clause. So, comma, future tense, and that's the main clause. So, before it starts raining, comma, I will go for a walk. Okay, so in these two cases, we can see very clearly, okay, how we can use this inversion. And again, that's important and worth knowing. So, with that, we are finishing the unit. But again, now I'm going to start with another, and this is an extra presentation about speaking. Okay, short strategies that we can take into account. So we will start now. All right, in 1 minute, we will begin with this lesson, speaking strategies. All right, so let's cover this short extra presentation that again, speaking mainly has to be practicing, right? Practicing. But again, I'm showing these extra presentations to use the time that I got left from the lessons that we have to cover and so on. All right, so this is speaking strategies. And again, this is something we can take into account. I'm going to also show you the practice that I do, right, with the people in class because we do always practice in class. I'm going to show you what I do so that you can do the same and practice on your own because these are good ways of improving, right, or to improve our speaking skills. Okay, so let's begin. This is the first presentation for strategies. We have to take this into account. Don't use your head to translate rather than thinking or write or think of synonyms or simpler explanations. Accept the idea that you will make mistakes and that you won't understand everything. Don't look for specific words. Keep your speech simple. Add new words little by little. Okay, so that's key again. To be able to speak fluently, to be able to improve our speaking skills, we have to stop translating, right? Trying to understand everything by just translating every single word is going to, or let's say, take a toll in some, well, in some time. It means that you will see that it's not a good idea because in a certain point you're going to, well, you're going to stop, you're going to be stopped actually, but by some limitations. And you will see that sometimes at a certain point it is harder to stop doing this translation. So as you're still learning, as we are still learning, we can take this into account and we can stop translating and using synonyms or simpler explanations. Okay, so again, it's also a good idea to speak a lot, making the mistakes, right, that you have to make. That's part of the process of learning. Don't look for specific words. That's very important because sometimes some people, as they are saying something, they forget specific words and they do everything to try to remember. At the end, right, sometimes they don't remember the word, so they just lost time. Okay, so don't look for specific words. You have to look for synonyms. You have to try to explain that differently, or you can go to a different topic, and when you get to remember, go back to that one. And well, okay, those are some pieces of recommendations. Add new words little by little. This is also important. Some people learn a lot of new words. They try to add all of them, and sometimes it feels unnatural, unnecessary, all right, because those words are not commonly used in those type of contexts. And again, at least if you are getting to have your international test and something very formal and serious, don't try to do that, okay? Little by little. That's why your preparation has to be many, many months before your test so that you know, right, what words you can use better and so on. So the first strategy, of course, is paraphrasing. Again, not reading, not trying to remember specific words, memorizing things, not just paraphrasing, saying everything in your own words. All right, this is an example. She angered with me, sorry, she angered me with her inappropriate comments, rumor spreading, and disrespectfulness at the formal dinner table. Okay, of course, that's said in a very formal way, but we can simply say she made me angry when she was rude at dinner. Okay, so again, this is important because we have to always try to say things in a different way. That's always important. And the activity for this one, of course, and again, this presentation is mainly for practicing. But in this case, you can practice like this. Making them listen to a lecture. You can look for lectures right online on YouTube. You have the lectures from Harvard, you have lectures from Cambridge, from Oxford, all right, from Stanford, and they upload, right, some free classes, complete classes. You can watch, right, random parts of those classes, listen to that part for some minutes, and try to write down and write as much information as possible, and then try to record yourself, right, explaining everything you were able to understand in a very, all right, limited period of time. Let's say again, here I'm giving 40 seconds minimum, 60 seconds maximum. The idea is to be able to convey and to, well, yes, to convey the main information that you were able to get, to make the others, right, understand that you are able to well, to follow up. And mainly that, this is something that you should do daily with different types of lectures. So it's challenging with different types of topics so that you can really use your own words to explain something that is going to be too hard to get. All right, so paraphrasing. Then the second one, we only have three over here. All right, explain, don't use Spanish, right? Some people prefer to speak in Spanish, or they translate every single time they say that word in Spanish, but no, right? A good strategy is all actually, right, not using your native language. So if you don't know how to say a word in Spanish, try to explain, sorry, that idea differently. It means don't say this example. Look, I think that people in orphanatos should receive more attention from. So if you say that again, if the word is closest in terms of, right, the root and everything, perhaps they will understand. It's not the case every time. But instead of doing that, because for some people that can create more confusion, because even though the words can be similar, sometimes we don't pronounce the words right in the same way. And here again, we got this idea that instead of saying that in Spanish, you can say that differently. For example, there are these places, in which children without parents are taken care of. Those are the places that should receive more attention from the government and so on, right? So you are just trying to show, and to make the other person understand what you want to say, because the main idea again of language is communication, right? So as long as you can communicate that in many different ways, that's great. Now, for the activity, you should explain these Spanish words, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But in English, right? Not using Spanish, not using the translation. All right, we have to use other words to express what's that. For example, yes, this is a person that persists a lot. He believes in something very firmly, right? And it's hard for someone to change his or her mind. Okay, you can define it like that, for example. You should use, right, 1 minute and 30 seconds, more or less. That's the tops actually for these words in Spanish. But again, this is something. All right, sorry. Again, it's just the time that this is too late after a lot of activities. It's too late. But anyways, you should be looking for a lot of Spanish words so that you are sure that you can explain those words in English. It will happen a lot. It's better to be ready, to be prepared. All right. But again, that's the logic over there. And the third one, that is the last one, use synonyms or similar expressions. All right. If you don't remember this word, manager, you say the person in charge. If you don't remember this word, father-in-law, you say my husband's or my wife's father. All right. So again, the idea here, this time, instead of paraphrasing something complex, instead of the previous one, right, using a different language, but in this case, explaining that differently, here you use synonyms. All right. That again, it's very important to know synonyms or similar expressions. For example, therefore, important, say, have, oh, sorry, in conclusion, and get. Therefore, right? You say therefore, and you say as a consequence, right? As a result, consequently, thus. Okay, those are some synonyms. Important, vital, pivotal, essential. All right. Say you have declare, command, state, have, you have possess, own. In conclusion, right? Finally, to conclude, then all in all, briefly, and get, it depends on the meaning, right? It can be buy, it can be, it can be obtain, it can be receive, right? A lot of things. So that's the idea, that you're sure that you know synonyms from many of the words that you use. If you don't find, right, those synonyms, there's always an expression or something that you can use instead. Okay, so that's it. Again, that was pretty short, but that's everything we're going to be covering now. We will continue working. That was, again, that was the last lesson for the unit. The third unit will start on Monday. And again, we are about to finish. We have 4 more classes, right? Because this is the fourth one, 4 more classes to finish everything. Please don't forget to work on Pearson, and don't forget to see all those details, all right, in practice. See you then on Monday.